Yesterday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with President Vladimir Putin ahead of the Brics summit, held in Kazan, Russia. During this significant meeting, Prime Minister Modi emphasized India's call for peace in Ukraine, expressing New Delhi's readiness to support efforts for a peaceful resolution to end the conflict. Acknowledging the critical need for peace in Europe, Modi stated, "We have been in constant touch regarding the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. India believes that conflicts should be resolved only through peaceful means." He further added, "We fully support the early restoration of peace and stability, giving priority to humanity. India stands ready to provide all possible support moving forward." In response, President Putin, who has faced diplomatic isolation from Western nations over the Ukraine war, thanked Modi for attending the summit and highlighted the privileged strategic partnership between Russia and India. The Brics summit, attended by leaders from 22 nations, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, aims to reinforce the influence of the non-Western world. While China and India, the largest buyers of Russian oil, often find themselves navigating complex relations, the Brics group continues to expand, signaling growing influence. However, this expansion has raised questions about whether the group's growing size could become challenging to manage effectively. As the Brics summit coincides with several global tensions, ranging from the Middle East crisis and economic concerns in China to uncertainty over the upcoming U.S. presidential election, its role in fostering economic and political alternatives remains critical. According to the International Monetary Fund, Brics' share of global GDP is expected to rise to 37% by 2030, with the group of 7 Western economies' share projected to decline. President Putin continues to seek support from Brics members to establish an alternative platform for international payments, aiming to shield it from Western sanctions. Addressing reporters at the summit, Putin reaffirmed Russia's stance on the Ukraine conflict, emphasizing Moscow's security interests and the protection of eastern Ukraine regions now claimed by Russia, as the world awaits potential developments after the U.S. Presidential election on November 5th. Prime Minister Modi's call for peace underscores India's commitment to diplomacy and international stability, values that remain at the core of Brics' expanding agenda. Putin gathers allies to prove Western pressure isn't working. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment that you are Vladimir Putin. The West labels you as a pariah for your actions in Ukraine. Sanctions aim to cut off your economy from the global market. The International Criminal Court has even issued an arrest warrant against you. But how do you prove to the world that this pressure isn't breaking you? The answer is simple. Host a major summit. This week, in the city of Kazan, I, President Putin, will host over 20 heads of state at the Brics Summit of Emerging Economies. Among those attending are China's Xi Jinping, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian. The Kremlin has called this summit one of the largest-scale foreign policy events ever on Russian soil. The message is clear. Efforts to isolate Russia have failed. Chris Weafer, the founding partner of consultancy Macro Advisory, has observed, "This is a key part of the Kremlin's messaging, demonstrating that Russia is weathering sanctions. Yes, there may be cracks under the surface, but at the geopolitical level, Russia has friends, and these friends are willing to stand by Russia. But who are these friends?" Brics is more than just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It has expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, with an invitation extended to Saudi Arabia as well. Together, Brics nations represent 45% of the world's population, contributing more than $28.5 trillion to the global economy, nearly 28% of the total. According to Russian officials, about 30 more countries are eager to join Brics or form closer ties. This week in Kazan, expect significant discussion about Brics representing the global majority. However, there are internal differences within Brics. The group is far from like-minded. For example, the relationship between China and India is often strained. As Jim O'Neill, the economist who coined the term BRIC, notes, China and India struggle to cooperate on many fronts. And if they were more aligned, BRICS could wield immense influence. O'Neill's vision of BRICS emerged at the start of the 21st century, intended as a counter to the dominance of the G7, the world's 7 largest advanced economies. Over time, BRICS evolved as these nations came together, later including South Africa to complete the acronym. But even beyond China and India, there are tensions among newer BRICS members, like Egypt and Ethiopia, as well as long-standing rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia. O'Neill adds, expecting fundamental agreement among such diverse nations is unrealistic. Russia speaks of a new world order, driven by anti-Western sentiment, but not all BRICS members share this vision. For example, India maintains its interest in healthy relations with Western powers. In Kazan, my task will be to downplay these differences and showcase unity. I intend to prove to the Russian people and the international community that Russia is far from isolated, despite all attempts to make it so. We sincerely thank you for joining us today. If the content resonates with you or inspires you, please consider showing your support by liking and subscribing to connect with our community. Your support is of great value to us. You can check out our channel's other videos currently playing on the screen.